Hey guys, my name is Rajiv and welcome to the new video. So in this video I'm going to teach you all about the React. So as you know that React is the best and the high demand library in the current world, and you need to run React if you want to explore your job in front-end development. So let's start and talk about what is React in the documentation. So as in the documentation you can see React is a JavaScript library for building user interfaces. So what does this sentence mean? This sentence have two way. So one, it says that a JavaScript is a library. It says JavaScript is a library, it is not a framework. And why is it not a framework? Because JavaScript library does one thing, and the thing that does is very good and very efficient. That is to build user interface. The interface which we see, React creates it, and it creates it declaratively so that we don't feel any pain to create those user interfaces. So that's what this sentence means. It means React only controls the user interfaces. Routing, HTTP request, and authentication and other things, they are not managed by React. You have to install your next library from npm and then use it. But why I like React is because if you don't worry about HTTP request and other authentication, so what we will do is we'll create a third-party library for HTTP request. Like you can install Axios, or you can use fetch in JavaScript, which is given by JavaScript, and it's your interest. So if you know Axios, then you can use Axios, and if you use fetch, and you can use fetch. So React gives you a variety of options. That's why I like React. As I'm comfortable with Axios, I will use Axios for get request, and for catching and for other stuff I will use React query, and for authentication I will use React auth, or I can use local storage. I don't have any rules for using many other like get request. For React router I use React router DOM. So you can use anything, so that it gives you a painless way so that you can grow React fast. So React is easy to learn, and just this tutorial will give you a basic knowledge and you can do your web development in React. So now let's see what documentation says. It says that React is declarative. It means that React is fast. Why? Because in React you don't work on a real DOM. So React creates a virtual DOM which is cheap, so that React works in virtual DOM, not a real DOM. So what virtual DOM does is that whenever we change our code or we write our code, React takes that code into the virtual DOM, not a real DOM. So that what we change is in our code, it all changes at virtual DOM. So at first it changes at virtual DOM, and then it compares to the real DOM. And if we have changed something in navbar, so that the virtual DOM explains the navbar, and real DOM is changed only the navbar. So that's how React is declarative, as well as React just efficiently handle or render just the components when the data changes. Like if your component of if your app has a clocking type which will pass a second to go, so that's how your clock will only render just the component which you use. So that's the use of React. So React creates a virtual DOM, and all the work is done on virtual DOM, not the real DOM. And then when you change something, then virtual DOM will match with the real DOM, and if it's any change, then real DOM will be rendered again, and then it will be in sync with each other. So that's why React is so fast, and user can get a better and better experience, and preloading and just many things are not in React, as it is a single page application and it is only managed by one HTML, which is indexed HTML, and where we will have a root item, and that is handled by DOM. So that's the reason why you should use React. So second, it's given that React is component based architecture. So what does it mean? That so React is created in a component based. So it is like you can see a navbar. So this is navbar is created as a component, is treated as a component, and you can see. So if you go to the tutorial page and we go to blog page, so you can see that in all page you can find that the navbar is used as same. So this is the way that we can use React so that creates a component. So as you can see, this declarative card is also a component. This component based architecture is also a component. So we can create all the component and then create a high level or UI or a hard logic app by just managing all in the route in the route by. So that's how component based architecture works. And basic use of component based architecture is that you can manage your state in a single component. Like if you want to change the React, so you will create a state and just change React in navbar component, and component makes your work reusable so that this navbar can be used in anywhere. Like this declarative card, you can create a card and you can use this card here and here, so you don't have to make do a stops and write same stops many times. So that's what React does. And then React says that learn once, write anywhere. So by learning React, you can then go to the React Native and then you can create mobile apps. You don't need to learn like other language, like you can Flutter and many other things for iOS. So React Native can create a powerful mobile apps. So that's what React. So now let's go to the code, and this I've installed the React app. You can do by creating npx create React app and your app name. So please always maintain the structure that you can't get uppercase. Like you can't use uppercase, you need always to do all this lowercase while giving a folder structure, file structure. So now you can see, so we have got many things in package.json. I've installed React Redux for state management, and React DOM for DOM manipulation, React Bootstrap for styling, and React is for using React. And then React is converted to JS of vanilla JS by Babel, which compiles our React app. So now there are 4 options in scripts. So you can start the React by npm start, or you can build for production npm build, and test with npm test, and then eject if you want to go out. So we can use eject. So now what we will need is here npm start. So when we do npm start, then it will create a development server and just in localhost 3000. Basically React is used in port 3000. You can change it in any way. So we have a git ignore file which ignores some of the stops. So this is out of the topic. So let's talk about folder structure. So you can see there's a public folder structure, and where we can find favicon icon, and then many stuff. So in my before tutorial, I've created this to-dos list, simple to-dos list, where we can clear all, and we can clear a simple thing and add. So this is a simple to-do list. So I'm going to at first go to app and just disable it, as we can going from a stuff. So this is the simple component called app.js. So as I said, this is a favicon icon. So this is a favicon which you can see in the top of your title. So this is index.html, will come to later. This is logo, which we do not need. This is manifest.json or JSON format for our logo and stuffs, and this is roboto. So these things are not imported. We only need here is index.html. So index.html have some stops. So this is only HTML which is used by React, and this HTML creates the single page application. So in this HTML, you can see a simple head where we have a meta tag and a link and a meta tag again, where it is used. This width is used for responsiveness, and this is a theme color. We have a content of black. So we have a meta tag of name and description and content. So this is a link where we will link our favicon icon. This is a manifest.json URL. So this is a title. This is a React app. You can change it to YouTube React. So YouTube React, when we will save it, it will automatically be a refresh, as you can see. So YouTube React, as you can see, it is already we do not have to do refresh, as in development it only renders this component which we will change. As you can see, now we have the head. We can close the head, and then we have a body where no script. Whenever our JavaScript won't run, this message will come, you need to enable JavaScript to run this app. So now we have a main component, which is this root. This is the root which is only the root which is handled by JavaScript. So this is the root. So we'll come to this root later, and then we will go to the next folder, that is index.js. This is important. This is the index.js which renders our app. So as you can see, here we used a React DOM.render method, which is installed by React, and it is the folder structure which is already created by React. So what it does is that it imports React DOM from React DOM. So React DOM is a library which we have installed in here, React DOM. So what React DOM does is that so React DOM renders our app method. So this is the app which you can see. This is the app where you can see this is app, and in index.js, so in index.js you can see index.js you can see React DOM has rendered a app in ID of root. So this is DOM manipulation, and if you don't know DOM manipulation, so please go and learn the DOM manipulation. So as we can see, again I will say you what does render does is render does two things. At first it takes what to show and where to show. So what to show, let's show app, and where to show, and to show to root. Where is root? Root is in ID root. So this is the structure of React. So in app.js, this is the app.js where we can change, and it will automatically be changed here. So let's start and learn about Jsx. So as we can see, so this div is not a HTML, it is a Jsx, which is a JavaScript extension or XML. So it is used because it helps us to write our code easily. As you can see, it is similar to HTML, and if you have learned HTML, then you can do easily. So like if we do not use Jsx, then we have to create like document dot create element stops, and then we have to create a div, and then we have to create a class name like stops, and then we have to give the class name or name of like app, and then again if you have to create h1, then we have to do document that create element of h1. So this is hard, and if you make a complex app, then it's impossible, and you're fed up, and you don't love React. So Jsx helped us, and as you can see, Jsx is easy. Just 2-3 stuffs are changed. Like you in HTML you used class, but in Jsx you have to use class name, and in event handler like in button, so you have to use on click. So on click it's camel case, so you have to use like this, and that's how Jsx works. So now let's go deep to the Jsx. So if we want to use JavaScript in Jsx, so we need to give a curly bracket, and then we can do any stuff like 1 + 1 in like JavaScript calculation, and it gives 2. If you have not seen, then I will take it at the h1. So as you can see, when we save it, you can see it's 2. Any stops like 40 plus 40 plus 40, save, and it's given 80. So this is how React works, or Jsx works. So Jsx is automatically compiled to like document.create element by ID app. It's automatically created by Babel. So this is called abstraction. So abstraction means letting the user to do easier thing, and the complex things are managed outside. This is what React does. Declarative. So tell React what you want to create an app bar. React will automatically create and give you an app bar. So this is declarative approach. So now we will see about component based architecture. As I showed, React is of component based architecture. So we have a folder called components, where we have atoms, layouts, molecules, and organism. So I will create a component name hello YouTube, hello.js. So this is a component. So as you know, component is a JavaScript function or a Jsx components. So now after the version 16.8 version of React. So as hooks was introduced in React, functional component is widely used, and I also recommend to use functional component, which is literally a JavaScript function. Like you can create a component in a 3 seconds, like const hello is equals to a function, add a function, and then we can return, and we can return a JSX or something. So this is a simple function, a component. It's a component which takes some properties and just return our JSX, which will automatically be compiled to HTML by Babel. So this is all React's basics. So there is another way of creating React function, React components using Jsx. So let's see how we can create. We can like hello class. This is of class component. So here we have to import component. So we have to import component from React. So for that we have to, so and then we have to use like export. This is export function, export class extends class hello class, export hello class extends hello class extends extends component. So like component is exported, export extends. So this is how it works. So export class hello class, this is our name, and extends component, and then we have to use render function at first, which will render our browser, and then we have to use return, which will return our JSX. So this is class based architecture, and if you need like state and other things, then we have to always use like constructor. This is constructor, and in constructor we have used to call the upper branch, which we extended to call super, and where we can use props and stops. So as you can see props. So what is props? So let's dive into this. So props is basically a properties which is accepted by JavaScript functions. So like you can see, I will just export this hello hello in my app. So we have to do export default hello. So there is two types of export. One, you can do like export const in inline. So if you do export const inline, then you have to import the same hello in app. But if you use export default, which is good, that I used mostly, is that because you can import any way you would like to import. So now when we will import hello, so you can see, so we have imported successfully, and then we have to paste like this hello. We can do like we can open and close, or if you want to use a self, then you have to close it and use self. So hello, our component is created hello, and then we can return hello world, hello world. So this can be like h1 tag, and close the h1 tag. When we will save it and refresh, and you can see hello world is displayed, and we have created our first React component with easy. So why is props needed? As I said, component is reusable. So how can we reuse that? So let's start. Let's copy it and paste many times. So as you can see, we have used hello many times, but when we will see, we see hello world, hello world, hello world, hello world. It's not reused. So what we need instead is that we can use like hello Rajiv, hello, and we can use hello Rajiv, hello someone, hello some names. So for that we can pass a name like Rajiv, and then we can pass name like Miraj, and then we can pass name like Mandeep. So we can pass name like code. So this is the 4-way. So now when we will come, though, it is not changed. Why? Because in hello we have not take up the props. So for that we have to go to the function parameter and just type props, and then in hello world we can use it for use. So in JavaScript, to use JavaScript in XML or JSX, you have to always copy it with curly bracket and just put like props dot what we have passed their name. So when we will save it and then came, we can see all the way. So at first we can paste hello and then save it, and then you can go hello Rajiv, hello. This is reusable, so all the way reusable. So I have a better option of doing this by destructuring it. Like if you have only one thing, so you can use like destructuring it name and just use name. So this is destructuring, as you can see, no worry. Or you can do like use props and then destructure down the way. So constant and then use like this name is equals to props. So we have given the name to the props, and here we can use name and no any change. So this is how props work. So now props we have seen. Now let's talk about state. So state is a way where a component can manage its all data changes. If data changes in a component, so we can create that component only to change the related data in isolation. So that creates us our code more simpler and more easier. So now as you can see in hello, so let's create another component of counter.js where we create a state. So here we can create a function of constant and a counter arrow function. So arrow function, we have created an arrow function and then return a simple fragment. So I'm going to teach you about fragment after this state. So now we can export it like export default counter, and then we can import it in app.js. So we can say them bye bye, and then we can install counter. So as we can see, we have successfully imported it. So now in counter we can go and create a state. So after using hooks, after the hooks has been released, I always use hooks, and it's very important and it's very easy, and using hooks is very fun. So now in this chapter I'm going to use hooks, and if you want to use class-based component, then please comment me. I will teach you state in class-based component too. But in now let's learn about functional component, and in functional component I'm going to teach you state. So for that, for changing state, I prefer use state. There is many other hooks like use ref, use effect, use reducer, which have their own work. So for changing state I prefer use state. So in use state we can so use state is a hook which is used by use superpower. Like use is a superpower, and then we use like use state, and which is imported, and we will call that function. So what use state does, that use state destructures to array in array. So first is a state our name, so we will create a state name as counter, and second is to change the counter. So as you should know that state cannot be directly modified, because to modify the state our JSX need to be re-rendered. So if you directly modify our counter, so the state won't re-render, and our work or our counter, our state won't work. So for our JSX to be re-rendered, we use set counter. The set counter is a second optional value for use state. So we can give an initial value 0. Okay guys, so we have successfully created a use state hook, and always note that use state hook can be only used upside of or first level of the React component, not in functional component. Like you can create a JavaScript function, like simple function, but you cannot use hook in there. It gives you error. You only can use it in the top level of React component function, not in regular function. So this is how we created a counter function. So now let's create a counter function. So now we can create a div, save it, and we can format it. So at first what we will do is that we will create a two buttons. First one button is of when we will click it, this is an event handler, and when we click it, we will create a increment function. We will call increment function when we will add it, and then we'll create a next button. If we click that button, then we will call the function decrement, and then decrement. So let's go and then call it like decrement function. So now we have click and increment decrement. So let's define the function. So const increment function, we have to do stops. I will do it later. So now we have to do decrement. Let's call to this two, and then in decrement and increment, I will give a span and then use curly bracket to use our JavaScript, and then place our counter function. So we have counter. So as you can see, we have a 0 and 1 function in left, and we will create plus. We need that it to be increased. So in increment function, so at first I will show you why we cannot directly update the state. So in counter function, if we create like counter is equals to counter plus 1, and then in log we will do counter. Okay, so now we can see in increment function, when we click, I said that the counter function should increase by 1, and I wanted to change the state directly. So let's see in console also. So when I press plus, so you can see, so state cannot be directly hit. So that's what it said. So for that, we will go and we will call set counter, where we will place counter plus 1. That's why always change your state with set counter function. The set counter function is a naming convention where you have to use set and the counter, then the rest is optional. So this is how set counter works. And in decrement, we can use set counter and then counter minus 1. So we will add here and we will minus here. So when we will refresh the function and we will add, it's adding and it's decreasing. And we will create a reset function which resets our button. So we'll create another button. When we will click on this button, we'll call reset function, and in constant we will create a reset function. And you can see in here we can do set counter as 0. So as you can see, we can add, reset, again add, again reset, again add, again decrease. So this is how you can use state. But if you want to do or more precisely, then I have a new way by using a prep count method or a callback function. Using callback function like this, and then you can use your prep count and then use prep count plus 1. So this is a callback function. This is a simple callback function where you can use a prep count function and then you can add it. So what's use of this is, if you want to create if you want to increment it by 5, if you want to increment the counter by 5, then using set counter, we need to code more ugly. Our code becomes more ugly. So if we want to directly update to the 5 increment by 5, so we have to use like previous count, which will automatically use our first parameter and then pass, like at first it was 0. As you can see, it is 0. It is like it is 4, and you can see it's 5, and when we press it becomes 9 because it uses prep count. So now prep count is 9, and 9 plus 5 it gives 14. So this is the way we can use callback function in state. So this is the best way to use function. So we can also use in here, like we can also give a set counter function to like 0. We can also use the like this. as you can see. You can also use in callback arrow function in your event, like we can increase our set counter by using counter +1, as you can do like stops, but I don't prefer it, as it becomes hard if you build more instability projects. So this is all about state. Do not directly update state. Use second callbacks and then use set counter using a callback function where you get a parameter and just use that parameter to add, subtract, or do anything stops. So this is counter. And okay, now I'm going to tell you about Jsx Fragment. So what is fragment in Jsx? So what component returns is a single parent div. So now as we can see, it is returning a div, but if we need something below the div, like if we need a h1 tag below the div, we cannot use it. As you can see, it's giving error, and what the error says is that Jsx elements must have a parent element. So Jsx only returns all the HTML as a parent element. For that, we have to give a not necessary div, or we can give simple Jsx fragment. So this is Jsx fragment, and it is also, I will format the document at first and then I will teach you about this. So we can use like this also, but React.fragment it's okay. So React.fragment. So I will import React. So this is how React fragment works. So what's the difference between using all React fragment and just using okay, so I will say the difference. So using this fragment is a shorthand, but when we will use it, when we have to pass like key or something in fragment, so we will use React fragment. I will come to that later, but you understand that React fragment is essential if we create, like if we have to create a table, and then in table we have we don't have a parent, then we can use fragment like this, and we can use in here, we can use tr and then stops. So that's the use of React fragment. It is used to remove the extra div or extra extra load to our browser. That's the way we decline our React fragment. So thank you guys for watching my part 1 of React. I will be coming with part 2, and in that I will teach you about more topics and more advanced topics. Till now, just learn React, and what the basics I said, just go through that again, and just try yourself to create a simpler projects. Like you can create a simple to-do list as I created before. So that's how you can learn, or you can create many other stuffs. So I'm going to teach you about React query in my next video. Till then, bye bye and good night. Thank you all of you.